took 2 land out. The Brian Boss side. Now we saw Brian Boss yesterday playing a really cool Birthing Pod deck, right?
Yep, Naya, Boss Naya we called it.
What does he have today? Does he have another sweet brew?
It looks like Boss Mono Brown.
So it looks like he's actually playing. I mean, does he have any blue cards at all? Does he have any in the sideboard?
No.
He has none. Actual Mono Brown. Yeah. He's playing with Lodestone Golem. Oh, he has Phyrexian Metamorph.
Yeah.
So he has
just 1.
Yep.
Or -1.
So he has Blightsteel Colossus, Platinum Angel. Basically, it's a deck that revolves around the whole Lightning Greaves, Kaldatha, Forge Master, right. Metal Worker, that type of stuff. And then you just make the boom booms, and you can disrupt people with the Trinisphere and the Chalice of the Void. Pretty cool deck. It's going to be interesting to see, because while Donald Sheldon doesn't have actual artifact removal, it turns out that he's a hater. A very, very hateful man who has freaking energy flux. So I think... Now, the interesting thing, though, is that this is one artifact deck that doesn't fold completely to energy flux. Super, super powerful, but he's got a bunch of these Soul Ring lands, these, you know, Ancient Tombs and City of Traders, so he could realistically just pay for, like, 1 or 2 artifacts. And when you have a Blightsteel Colossus and a Sundering Titan, how many do you have to pay for? So I think it's going to be interesting to watch how this plays out. Brian Boss leading with Wasteland and Mox Diamond. Sheldon had the turn 1 Vial, as the Merfolk people always do. Always. Where's he going with this, though? What key cards is he looking at to accelerate himself?
Is that a... okay.
Force of Will's the Mox Diamond.
Huh. And a second Wasteland from Brian.
Force of Willing the Mox Diamond.
Doesn't want that acceleration there, so the Vial ticks up.
Wow.
On Sheldon's side.
Okay, so yeah, Sheldon. Sheldon, looking to put some pressure. He's gonna need to start dropping some cards, because you got to be. I mean, first of all, do you think he has any idea what Boss is up to? 2 Wastelands and a Mox Diamond. That usually means some kind of
could
a
be junk,
deck.
yeah. But there's an Ancient Tomb added to Brian's side of the board. And
once he plays the Ancient
Grim Monolith.
Yeah, I was going to say, as soon as somebody plays an Ancient Tomb, you know that they are definitely doing something that they should not be.
Yeah, the brown is out of the bag. What is he going to do here? So. And passes back, the Vial ticks up.
So Grim Monolith means he's got access to 7 mana right off the top, and 8 or 9 if he plays a land, which means that he's going to be threatening potentially Sundering Titan, Platinum Angel, Wormcoil Engine, which he has a lot of Wormcoil Engines, Forge Master, Battlesphere. I mean, he's got a lot of boom booms.
Just, you know, something kind of interesting from in all the events that I've done, I have never seen a mono brown deck win a match. I'm just telling you, I have yet to see one actually go like do anything.
I think,
and even the mono browns that aren't entirely mono brown, you know, the ones that have a little bit of blue or something.
I mean, one of them,
but, you know,
didn't one come in second at an SCG Open like a month ago, 2 months ago?
Yeah, it just seems like the ones that I've done, I've never seen it actually work. I'd love to see that happen now.
This is where it's blowing my mind that he countered the Mox Diamond. I mean, it's not even clear if the Mox Diamond makes any mana at all. You have to discard a land.
Yeah.
What do you...
it's just basically like an extra land drop.
I don't know.
Like an Explorer, kind of.
Seems ambitious, but now we're looking at a Forge Master. Now, the nice thing about the Forge Master is that if you ever get to use him, you're looking at... I mean, normally the first... Like, if you can activate the Forge Master without having to sack himself, you're going to be looking at... getting a Battlesphere so that you can make another fatty on the next turn. So Sheldon using a Daze to force Boss to use his Monolith. The Seat of the Sun ensures that he can at least produce some kind of a threat next turn. Sheldon's going to try to put enough pressure on him to hopefully just try to power through whatever it is. That much glare, it must be a Regery. So Boss is actually going to be able to drop, like, if he draws a land, he'll be able to drop a Wormcoil Engine if he wants, but at the very least, he can play a Lodestone Golem. which means that he'll be able to use the Forge Master without actually losing it. So interesting here. It's got a... The world is his oyster. What is he going to go get? Mirror Battlesphere is the first one you think of just because it gives enough, makes a whole bunch of extra artifacts for him to sacrifice so that the next Forge Master gets even bigger, and at the same time produces enough blockers to not die next turn. With Boss dropping to 16, he still has so much life. I really think Sheldon's in a bad way. Force of Willing that Forge Master would have been pretty amazing. But at this point, he's just got to try to figure out a way to clock Boss fast. Problem is, if he's not careful, Boss could just switch it up and go get like a Blightsteel Colossus or whatever and, you know, end the game immediately. If Sheldon doesn't have enough blockers. What's he gonna go get? Now, one thing to keep in mind is that he has access to Platinum Angel, and depending on what kind of a deck you put Sheldon on, like what kind of a deck, you might just think the Sheldon is drawing dead to a Platinum Angel.
Yeah.
Now it turns out Sheldon actually does have 2 Jittes, so he has some answers, but an awful lot of Merfolk decks cannot beat a Platinum Angel game 1. Moment of truth. Most likely the Battlesphere, but I mean, we'll see. Definitely another matchup where it's super important to have those dismembers. It does look like Sheldon does have access to a couple. You just have to be able to stop Metalworker or Forge Master.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see this actually work. He has a Blightsteel at the top.
Which is totally illegal, by the way. You're completely not allowed to rearrange libraries.
No.
Almost everybody in Magic does it, but you can't do it. The rules expressly forbid... See, all this stuff, you can't do that. You cannot rearrange your library. For instance, what if you were searching your library because it called out the Forge Master, and in the process you happen to have a Panglacial Worm in your deck? If you have a Panglacial Worm in your deck, you can cast it while your deck is still in your hand. Now what if you also have a counterbalance in play? Now what if your opponent Force of Wills your Panglacial Worm? The top of your library, you can't just rearrange the top of your library and just slide a 5 to the back. The order has to stay the same, and the rules say that this always has to be the case.
That's something I never knew. And I didn't think it was ever relevant, but you just brought up, you know, a relevant example.
And that's irrelevant. The other big thing is that obviously if you're rearranging your library, it can only serve to cheat. Because when you shuffle your library, you should be sufficiently randomizing your deck. Why are you rearranging your library if you're just going to sufficiently randomize it afterwards? Most of the time people are doing it, they're like moving their cards around because they don't want 3 Wrath of Gods next to each other.
Right.
If you were going to actually sufficiently randomize your deck, it wouldn't be an issue. Regardless, Blightsteel Colossus decides to come down because why have any elegance at all when you could just beat him to death?
And Lightning Greaves. He slipped into a pair of Lightning Greaves and went right into the red zone. So
he blocks with a single Curse Catcher, taking 9 poison counters.
And basically has to deal with that Colossus.
Yeah, packs his cards up.
Yeah, so
that's a wrap. He was nowhere near being able to produce enough damage.
Not even enough time for Matt to get the poison counter on the screen. I don't even know if it was relevant.
So, moving to game 2, let's see. Boss has access, so he has access to Phyrexian Revoker. Do you think he's going to want that? I mean, the most common name would be Vile.
Right.
But he, in theory, he can name Wasteland or Univault or Jitte even, or even Commander if times were really tough.
Contagion Engine.
Contagion Engine is kind of an exciting one. It's a little bit slow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you really want it, because when are you going to go get that instead of...
Something like Wormcoil.
Yeah, exactly.
Ratchet Bomb?
Batterskull he might. I don't know, like Batterskull, at least it's cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, Batterskull's traditionally very good against these Merfolk decks.
And yeah, I mean,
I don't think Ratchet Bomb's good enough. I think it's way too slow.
What do you think it's there for?
Like a Zoo deck? Like a deck with a bunch of 1-drops?
Okay.
Yeah, the Merfolk deck, too many of the cards cost 2 and 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's mostly for a deck where all the cards cost 1.
Sounds right.
And as you notice, the mono brown deck doesn't really play 1-drops. You know.
Oh yeah.
So it's elves, for instance.
Right. That
Perfect.
was actually the first thing I thought of, but just figuring Merfolk tends to have a lot of cheaper cards, although not as cheap as something like elves. Yeah.
It's possible. I mean, this is legacy, man. Like the juking that could be going on. You know, you throw this, you kind of do this move, and the other person's doing that move, and you go here, and they go there. Next thing you know, you're like sideboarding and dismember in a bar in Tijuana with a $15 bill, and you don't even know what language they're speaking. Actually, that probably doesn't come up that often. What does Sheldon have access to?
Metamorph seems like an interesting option.
Just copy it. If he's going to have his fun, you have yours.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Dismember and Energy Flux, right? I mean, Energy Flux, his deck is mono brown.
Right.
And Dismember, keep him off those Metalworkers and Forge Masters.
Yep. Surgical Extraction.
Nah.
No,
Yeah, I think
that's
Tormod's
about
Crypt and Surgical Extraction the wrong way.
Right.
Submerge and Lawand obviously don't work. So,
Right. So
pretty much just 2 Flux, 2 Dismember, and theoretically a Metamorph.
Yeah. I think I would do it. I mean,
What are you
going
going
to out?
What are you going to get? You're going to get Blight Steel Colossus, so the 2 of them can just block?
Yeah, or obviously that's not the best, but I guess I'm thinking.
Were you going to copy his Forge Master?
No, definitely not.
Because he always gets the Blight Steel on your end step. And by then it's too late. I think that the Metamorph might be too cute.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
If you
can
have
file it down.
Right, if you have a way to potentially deal with whatever it is he's got, it'd be nice to.
Like what?
Yeah,
he doesn't
no,
have
I'm
any
looking, he doesn't
cards
have
in his deck
anything,
to deal
right?
with things.
No, anything, yeah. I'm looking at the list. Never mind.
Yeah, I think he's just got to play beatdown. He just needs to stay as fast and aggressive as possible, and then just use Dismember and Energy Flux because of how fast a tempo plays they are. You know, Energy Flux will sweep his board of all the cheap little artifacts early, and Dismember gives him a 1-mana solution to 3-mana and 5-mana plays like the Forge Master and the Metalworker. The big thing he needs to do is sideboard out some of these spells. Like, for instance, Mental Misstep needs to go. So, once he boards out the 4 Mental Missteps for 2 Energy Flux and 2 Dismember, then the question is, does he have anything worse than a Metamorph? He actually probably does. Jitte's not very good. You might want a Jitte. I don't know. Yeah, he'll probably bring in the Metamorph. You're right, because he's got a lot of cards that are exceptionally mediocre.
Yeah.
The main thing is that he's got to take out those 4 Missteps for 2 Flux and 2 Dismember.
I'm just looking at Platinum Angel as a potential metamorphed target. What happens if there's dueling Platinum Angels?
I mean, the game can be a draw.
Yeah. I'm just thinking neither player really has a good answer for it.
Well, he has 2 Dismembers.
Right. Oh, that's right. So if that even works better, right? If Platinum Angel is there, metamorph it and then dismember it, and Brian has no answer for Platinum Angel.
Well, he does. Right, like Staff of Domination. Contagion Engine.
Contagion Engine. On
Wear him down.
Wear down the Platinum Angel.
Yeah, Staff of Domination is the backup plan. Alright, so for game 2, we have Brian Boss up 1-0. Brian Boss playing a exciting mono brown deck. Actual mono brown with the only colored card being a single Phyrexia Metamorph, which he usually just casts for colorless anyway. Donald Sheldon, on the other hand, playing a fairly traditional Merfolk deck.
Mono blue aggro.
Mono blue aggro. Right. This is the battle between a deck without colored cards and a mono blue beatdown. Because this is legacy. Earlier we saw no sideboard versus no land. Now we're watching mono blue beatdown versus mono brown.
A lot of people responding to your comment about rearranging.
Yes, if you actually pulled the card out, as long as it was the card you were selecting, it would be fine. But what he did, the problem is, as soon as he pulls a card to the front, if he pulls a second card to the front, now you're rearranging your library.
Right. It's
supposed to be if you pull that Blightsteel Colossus to the front, it's because you're choosing it. You know. Not exactly, disciplinedly and hardcore enforced at all levels, but definitely something that people should be aware of, because the only tactical reason to do it is that you are cheating, and most people don't do it because of that. Most people just do it because it's a really bad habit because they don't shuffle enough.
Well, I mean, I guess...
They do it because they're thinking, they're like, oh, do I want this or do I want that? Which not only is that a bad play because you're leaking information, it's also illegal. The main reason you shouldn't do it is because the rules say you cannot do it.
I guess if you're going to sufficiently randomize what you're supposed to do anyway, what does it matter what
The rules say not to do it.
Okay. I'm just saying, like...
It's the same reason you don't mana weave. Mana weaving is illegal.
It's weird.
Because it's prone to abuse. It's not, no, it's not, because you take a thing that's abusive and you make it illegal, because even though if they were sufficiently randomizing afterwards, it would be fine. The problem is, it's much harder to enforce that everyone is always sufficiently randomizing their deck when they're cracking fetch lands every single turn than it is to just say, don't do this thing that is blatantly, obviously only cheating if it was ever useful for anything.
Right, okay, so it all hinges on how hard it is to enforce sufficient randomization.
Right, because you're talking about a thing that, in theory, aspires to be irrelevant.
Right.
However, it has the potential for abuse, and it's easier to enforce somebody not moving a card out of order than it is to enforce somebody sufficiently randomizing, which is a very nebulous thing anyway.
Absolutely. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
So, looks like both players deciding to keep their opening hand. Brian Boss, the main thing he always looks for. It looks like he does have that Ratchet Bomb that you were talking about.
Huh.
You're right.
So he he's on turn 1 Mutavault Vial.
And it does give him answers to things like to Ether Vial and obviously just slowing down opponents who want to bum rush him with 2-drops.
He leads with turn 1 Ratchet Bomb off of an Ancient Tomb.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and once you have the Ratchet Bomb, you want to lead with it, get it out there early, get some counters on it.
I didn't know he had the Ancient Tomb, so good to see him able to do that. So Mutavault gets in for 2. So Brian already down to 16.
Not really how you want to start. I mean, you want to get in there with like Silvergill out and whatnot, but it appears that his hand is mostly double blue creatures like Lord of Atlantis. Now this is actually the spot where Brian really does want to blow the Ratchet Bomb. Blow it right now. Absolutely.
Just
slow down
for a vial.
Yeah, because it's clear that Sheldon can't cast anything. He's swinging with Mutavault.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's exactly what he does.
Good play by Boss. And the Ratchet Bomb definitely gets it. Oh, and he wastelands the Mutavault. When he drops the Grim Monolith here. Exactly. He's so far ahead.
Oh my gosh.
Does he have Metal Worker? If he has Metal Worker, it's going to be...
He didn't, I don't think.
And it looked like he has Contagion. Oh, he does have Metal Worker in his hand. He just didn't play it. So now he drops the Metal Worker. It looks like he still has Lodestone Golem. He's got a lot of big boom booms. He's got the Contagion engine, the Lodestone Golem.
Golgotha Forge Master, I think, is in there too.
Yeah, it's interesting. Surely he took out some of the bullets that are not as effective. Maybe, well, who knows which ones? Like the Phyrexian Metamorph, I suppose. Took out in the Lightning Greaves. Maybe.
And Sundering... Oh, wait a minute. He's revealing. I was like, did he just cast Sundering Tide?
Yeah, he's going to.
Maybe. Yeah, there it is.
This is going to be really bad. If there's one thing I've learned about Metalworker, it's that you, dear God, do not want to let them activate it. So, Sheldon in the unenviable position of now being on a very nearly 2-turn clock against opponent with 16 mana. Well, he has no permanents and no outs.
And Lodestone Golem added to the side, Brian's side of the board. You know what you forgot is when he activated that Metalworker, you forgot to go,
No, dude, I'm happy. This is going to be quick and painless. This is a mercy killing.
For who?
This is a mercy killing by Boss. The Mono Brown deck definitely does some pretty exciting things, and Merfolk is definitely one of its better matchups. If you thought the Merfolk deck struggled with Affinity, wow, does it have trouble with this Mono Brown deck, you know?
Here it is.
And that's the match. You asked for a win by the other thing. You wanted to see it in action. This is it.
I'm absolutely...
You gotta admit, tapping a Metalworker is pretty freaking awesome.
I don't think I've ever seen somebody actually tap the Metalworker.
That's what happened. Yeah. Dude, nothing. Like whenever anybody ever taps a Metalworker,
that's it.
Stuff gets real.
Yeah. That was pretty ridiculous. Now it's funny, actually. I remember, I think in Orlando, Ali and Trauzy was playing I don't know if it was Mono Brown, but it was close. And he had the Metalworker, and I think he blocked a 2-power creature, thinking that Metalworker was a 1/3. Like not paying attention, and he had played Metalworker, and his opponent attacked, and he blocked, and went, oh no, Metalworker was a 1/3, and then he lost that match. And I was like, wow, that was tough.